Listen, pause, whatever you're doing. Because this is one of those moments hip-hop pretends never happened. The kind of story that lives in studio hallways, late-night text threads, and those uncomfortable silences between artists who once shared the same creative air. Fans are shocked right now, timelines are buzzing, and insiders are whispering about what some are calling Sampha's Kendrick moment. A quiet explosion that never made headlines until now. For years, Sampha has been painted as the soft-spoken genius, the emotional glue behind some of hip-hop's most vulnerable moments. Kendrick Lamar, the Pulitzer-crowned prophet, the voice of a generation, untouchable in the culture. But what if the moment that helped elevate one also quietly sidelined the other? What if behind the soulful harmonies and critically acclaimed records, emotions ran high, egos clashed, and a truth was buried because it didn't fit the hero narrative? Sources close to the situation claim there was a turning point, one studio session, one decision, one phone call that changed everything. Fans are now revisiting old lyrics, awkward interviews, and suspicious gaps in collaborations, asking the same question. Why did Sampha disappear from Kendrick's musical universe right when his impact felt undeniable? And more importantly, who benefited? This isn't just about music. This is about power, credit, creative ownership, and the unspoken rules of hip-hop politics. The family, creative and personal, was left divided. Friends picked sides, and Sampha, he stayed silent until the energy shifted. So before you dismiss this as just internet chatter, ask yourself why this story makes so many people uncomfortable. Because sometimes, the most explosive moments in hip-hop aren't the diss tracks you hear, they're the truths you're never supposed to question. It all allegedly started in a room that was never meant to make history. No cameras, no entourage, just dim lights, expensive speakers, and two artists standing at very different places in their careers. According to people who swear they were there, or at least knew someone who was, this was supposed to be just another late-night studio session. Nothing political, nothing personal, just vibes. Sampha walked in quiet, hoodie up, laptop under his arm. That's always been his energy. No announcement, no ego. Kendrick was already there, pacing, not nervous pacing, focused pacing. The kind that lets everyone in the room know the session is about to matter. "Play that joint you sent," Kendrick allegedly said, without even turning around. Sampha hesitated, not because he lacked confidence, but because he felt something was off. Friends later claimed Sampha had been sitting on a record, something raw, something too honest. A song that wasn't meant to be background vocals or a bridge. This one had his soul front and center. He pressed play. The room changed. You could feel it in the silence between the notes. The beat was minimal, haunting. Sampha's voice cracked in places it wasn't supposed to. He sang about isolation, about being used but never fully seen, about standing next to greatness and still feeling invisible. According to insiders, Kendrick stopped pacing halfway through the first verse. "Run that back," Kendrick said. Sampha did. By the third listen, the room was split. Some people were looking at Kendrick like, "Yeah, this is it." Others were looking at Sampha like, "This might be too much." That's when the first line was crossed. "What if this is the hook?" Someone allegedly asked, not Sampha, someone else. Sampha's head snapped up. "The hook," he said, "that's the song." The room went quiet again. Kendrick finally turned around. "I hear something bigger here," he said carefully. "This could live on a bigger canvas." Bigger canvas. To some, that sounded like opportunity. To Sampha, according to close friends, it sounded like a warning. This wasn't the first time Sampha had felt this way. For years, he'd been the emotional translator for rap's biggest stars. Drake, Can-I, Solange, Kendrick. He was the guy you called when you needed depth, vulnerability, that ache you couldn't fake. Fans loved him, but the industry loved using him. And this night, allegedly, that reality hit different. Sampha reportedly responded, "I don't want it chopped up. I don't want it repurposed." Kendrick paused. "Nobody's trying to take anything," he said. But witnesses claim his tone shifted. Less collaborative, more guarded. That's when emotions ran high. One producer reportedly muttered, "Man, this is bigger than feelings." Sampha didn't like that. "Feelings are the whole point," he said quietly. "This is where stories start to blur, depending on who you ask." Some say Kendrick respected that and backed off. Others say that's when the tension really started. Because shortly after that session, something strange happened. the song disappeared. Not leaked, not released, just gone. Weeks passed, then months. Then Kendrick announced a new project. Fans were hyped. The rollout was intense. Lyrics were dissected. Themes were praised. But some listeners, especially the ones who knew Sampha's voice like family, started hearing echoes. A melody here, a cadence there, a familiar emotional fingerprint that didn't quite belong to anyone else. "Am I tripping?" one fan tweeted. "Or does this sound like Sampha's pain in Kendrick's words?" The tweet went semi-viral, then vanished. Behind the scenes, people say Sampha was spiraling, not publicly, but internally. He wasn't angry in the explosive way. He was hurt in the quiet way. Friends described him as distant, withdrawn, questioning his place in a culture he helped shape. He felt like he gave something sacred, and it got absorbed, one alleged insider claimed. No credit, no acknowledgement, just gone. And here's where it gets messy. A mutual friend allegedly reached out to Kendrick's camp, asking if Sampha would be credited on a particular record. The response: "It's inspiration, not collaboration." That line reportedly broke something, because in hip-hop, inspiration is a loophole, a gray area, and fans are shocked when they realize how often that line gets crossed. Sampha didn't tweet. He didn't rant, he didn't go live. Instead, he went silent, for nearly a year. No features, no interviews, no clarification, and that silence, it spoke volumes. Fans started speculating. Why doesn't Kendrick ever mention Sampha anymore? Why do they never appear in the same spaces? Why does it feel like history got rewritten? Meanwhile, Kendrick's rise continued. Awards, praise, canonization. The culture crowned him untouchable. And Sampha, he was still respected, still loved, but now seen as niche, alternative, not quite mainstream enough. The family, creative and personal, was left divided. Some collaborators sided with Kendrick, saying, "That's just how the game goes." Others quietly distanced themselves, unwilling to be caught in the crossfire. One unnamed artist allegedly told Sampha, "You don't win these battles by being pure." That stuck with him because purity was always his thing. Late one night, according to sources close to the situation, Sampha finally spoke his truth, but not on social media. In a studio, on a mic, recording a song no one was supposed to hear. A song where he sang, "I gave you my voice and watched it walk away." Fans wouldn't hear that track for years, but when they did, they felt it. And here's the twist nobody expected. Kendrick allegedly heard it too, not directly, through whispers, through mutuals, through the same underground channels where industry secrets travel faster than press releases. And that's when things got uncomfortable. Because for the first time, the narrative wasn't fully in Kendrick's control. By the time word reached Kendrick's camp that Sampha had recorded something raw, something pointed, the energy had already shifted. This wasn't just quiet tension anymore. This was the kind of discomfort you feel when a truth you hoped would stay buried starts breathing on its own. According to alleged insiders, Kendrick didn't react immediately. No calls, no texts, no public response, just silence. But people close to him say that silence wasn't dismissal, it was calculation. Because here's the part fans don't always see. When you're positioned as the moral compass of hip-hop, any crack in the image feels like a threat. And Sampha's pain, even unspoken, was starting to look like a crack. Studio whispers turned into industry rumors. Producers began choosing sides without announcing it. Invitations shifted. Sessions that once felt open suddenly became tight rooms. Sampha noticed. He'd hear about a session after it already happened, one alleged friend said. Same people, same city, just not him anymore. Emotions ran high, but again, Sampha didn't explode. Instead, he internalized, and that internalization started bleeding into his music. When Sampha finally reemerged publicly, fans were excited, but confused. The sound was darker, heavier, less hopeful. In interviews, he spoke about isolation, about feeling like your contribution gets erased when it's convenient. He never named names, but fans are smart. They connected dots. One interview clip in particular lit the fuse. When asked if collaboration ever comes at a personal cost, Sampha paused and said, "Sometimes you realize your vulnerability helped build a house you don't live in." Fans are shocked because that line didn't feel abstract. Within hours, blogs were speculating. Twitter threads exploded. Reddit broke down timelines. TikTok creators stitched old Kendrick verses with Sampha's vocals underneath, pointing out similarities, emotional overlaps, shared DNA. "That's not a coincidence," one viral video claimed. "That's extraction." Kendrick's fans pushed back hard. "Y'all reaching. This is hate." Kendrick always gives credit. And that's when things turned ugly. Allegedly, someone from Kendrick's extended circle reached out to Sampha, not to apologize, but to clear the air. The message, according to sources, wasn't hostile, but it was firm. "Don't let fans turn this into something it's not." Sampha reportedly replied with one sentence, "I didn't start this." That response circulated privately. Screenshots were never confirmed, but the tone, it spread. Soon after, Kendrick addressed the noise during a closed-door industry conversation that somehow leaked. He allegedly said, "Everybody feels entitled to a piece of your legacy once it gets big." That statement hit like gasoline, because to Sampha's supporters, that wasn't about entitlement, it was about acknowledgement. The family was left divided. Mutual collaborators stopped mentioning either artist in the same breath. One producer unfollowed Sampha, another unfollowed Kendrick. Fans noticed everything. Then came the award season moment that nobody expected. Kendrick won big, again. As he stood on stage, thanking influences and collaborators, the camera cut to the crowd. Sampha wasn't there, but fans swore they felt his absence. And then Kendrick said something that set the internet on fire. "There are voices that shape you," he said, "even when they're no longer in the room." No names, no clarification. Was it respect? Or was it a way to acknowledge without fully owning? Sampha didn't tweet. But 2 days later, he posted a photo, just a black square, no caption. That post got more engagement than any promo he'd done in years. Fans flooded the comments. "We hear you. You deserve credit. Say it out loud." Behind the scenes, the pressure was mounting. Labels don't like controversy that doesn't convert to dollars. Managers started calling. Advisors urged silence. "Let it blow over," Sampha was told. "Don't burn bridges. This is bigger than you." But here's where the story takes another turn. Sampha allegedly started declining opportunities that felt familiar. Big-name features, high-profile collaborations. Instead, he focused on smaller rooms, live instrumentation, projects where he had full control. That choice confused people. Why would he step away now? Fans asked. Because, according to those close to him, Sampha wasn't stepping away, he was stepping back into himself. And that scared the industry. Because an artist who no longer needs the machine is unpredictable. Meanwhile, Kendrick's camp reportedly began tightening narratives. Press angles shifted. Interviews emphasized self-reliance, internal struggle, lone genius imagery. Fans noticed that too. "The story changed," one blogger wrote. "It used to be about community. Now it's about isolation." Coincidence or consequence? The most dramatic twist came when an unreleased demo leaked, not officially, not cleanly. A low-quality recording surfaced online, allegedly from that original session years ago. Sampha's voice, unmistakable, singing words that fans had never heard before but felt instantly. The leak was taken down within hours, but it was too late. The internet had already heard it. "This changes everything," fans commented. "That was his song. Why was this never released?" No official statements followed. No confirmations, no denials, just tension. And in hip-hop, silence after a leak is louder than any diss track. At this point, the narrative was no longer controllable. Media outlets began dancing around the story without fully touching it. Creative differences, scheduling conflicts, different artistic directions, but fans weren't buying it. Because when emotions run this deep and silence lasts this long, it's never just about art. It's about power. It's about ownership. It's about who gets remembered and who gets edited out. One thing was clear. Whatever happened between Sampha and Kendrick wasn't resolved. It was postponed. Buried under success, awards, and carefully chosen words. But buried things don't disappear. They wait. By the time the leak faded from public access, the damage was already done. Fans had heard enough to form opinions, and opinions in hip-hop move faster than facts. What was once whispered in studios was now being debated in comment sections, Discord chats, and reaction videos. Emotions ran high, and nobody could pretend this was just creative differences anymore. Sampha felt it first in the crowd. At a small, intimate live show, one of those stripped-down performances he'd been leaning into, fans started shouting things between songs. "We heard it! That was your record. They did you dirty." Sampha froze for a second. According to people there, you could see it on his face. The conflict. Gratitude mixed with fear. Validation mixed with anxiety. Because once fans start speaking for you, silence becomes a choice, and a dangerous one. He didn't address it directly. Instead, he sat at the piano and said softly, "This next song is about letting go of what you can't control." Fans are shocked because the lyrics that followed felt like a confession. "I built a bridge they crossed without me, watched my echo get louder in someone else's mouth." The room went still. Phones came out. Clips went viral within minutes. And now, the story had sound. Meanwhile, Kendrick's camp reportedly went into full lockdown mode. No unscripted interviews. No casual appearances. No room for questions that couldn't be steered. People close to him allegedly felt the pressure too. One collaborator supposedly said, "It's like everyone got a memo overnight, don't mention Sampha." That alone fueled speculation. Because when names disappear from conversations, fans assume guilt. Fair or not, that's how the culture moves. Then came the podcast moment. A well-known hip-hop commentator, someone respected, someone careful, hinted at the situation without saying names. "There's a difference between collaboration and consumption," they said, "and the culture doesn't always protect the quieter artist." That clip spread fast. Fans immediately filled in the blanks. Kendrick, Sampha, this is about them. The family was left divided all over again. Some artists publicly defended Kendrick, calling him a perfectionist, a visionary, someone who absorbs energy from everywhere. Others posted cryptic messages about credit, acknowledgement, and spiritual theft. Yes, spiritual theft. That phrase caught fire. Suddenly, this wasn't just about music anymore. It was about morality, about whether hip-hop truly values vulnerability or just profits from it. Behind closed doors, according to alleged insiders, Kendrick finally listened to the full version of that leaked demo. Not the low-quality clip, an original file that somehow resurfaced through mutual contacts. Those close to the situation claim he didn't say much afterward. Just one thing. He said, "I didn't know it hurt him like that." That sentence alone split people. Some saw it as human. Others saw it as too little, too late. Because here's the part fans can't ignore. By the time you realize the pain, the imbalance has already paid off. At this point, pressure mounted for some kind of acknowledgement. Not a diss track, not a public apology, just something. And that's when Kendrick made a move nobody expected. During a live performance, no announcement, no warning, he brought out a vocalist. Not Sampha, but someone whose tone, style, and emotional delivery felt eerily familiar. The internet exploded. "This is a replacement. That's disrespectful. Why not just call Sampha?" Others defended it. Artists evolve. He doesn't owe anyone. But the tension was undeniable. Sampha reportedly watched the clip in silence. Later that night, he posted a short voice memo to his private circle. It leaked days later. "I don't want to be a ghost in someone else's story." That line hit harder than any diss. Fans rallied around him. Playlists titled "Give Sampha His Flowers" popped up overnight. Old collaborations resurfaced. People started reevaluating his role in shaping a certain emotional era of hip-hop. And here's the twist that nobody saw coming. A respected music journalist reached out to Sampha for a long-form interview. No gossip, no gotcha questions, just space. Sampha agreed on one condition. No names. The interview dropped a week later. He spoke about power imbalances, about being the safe place artists come to when they want to be vulnerable, but not wanting to share that space publicly, about how silence can be mistaken for consent. One line shook the culture. Sometimes the loudest voice in the room gets credited for the emotion someone else taught them how to feel. Fans are shocked because it felt like the truth hip-hop avoids. Kendrick never responded directly. But in a later verse, subtle, layered, blink and you miss it, he rapped about mirrors cracking and owing echoes more than thanks. Was it guilt, growth, or damage control? Nobody knows. What everyone does know is this. The relationship, whatever it once was, is fractured beyond repair. Friends who once believed reconciliation was possible now say the trust is gone. Not because of one moment, but because of everything that followed. Sampha continues moving quietly, deliberately. Smaller rooms, deeper control, no need to prove anything. Kendrick remains massive, influential, untouchable to many, but now permanently linked to a question that won't go away. Who really owns vulnerability in hip-hop? One thing becomes painfully clear. This was never about stealing a song. It was about absorbing a spirit, and what happens when that spirit finally speaks back. And in the final part, the culture itself has to decide what matters more. Greatness without accountability or truth, even when it makes legends uncomfortable. By the time the culture realized this story wasn't going to resolve neatly, it had already turned inward. What started as speculation about a studio session had evolved into something much bigger, a mirror held up to hip-hop itself. Fans weren't just debating Sampha versus Kendrick anymore. They were questioning the system that decides whose pain gets amplified and whose gets archived. Emotions ran high everywhere. In comment sections, longtime Kendrick supporters admitted feeling conflicted for the first time. "I still love the music," one fan wrote, "but I can't unhear Sampha now." Others doubled down, insisting this was all narrative manipulation, another case of the internet building a villain because it needed one. Meanwhile, Sampha's name was moving differently again, not louder, but heavier. When he announced a short run of shows, tickets sold out instantly. No flashy rollout, no press tour, just word of mouth. At one show, he addressed the crowd more directly than ever before. "I used to think silence was protection," he said, standing alone under a single light. "Now I know it's also a language, and sometimes people rewrite it for you." The crowd erupted. Fans are shocked because that felt like a line drawn, not against Kendrick specifically, but against the erasure that followed him for years. Behind the scenes, industry conversations reportedly became uncomfortable. Executives, A&Rs, managers, people who usually stay neutral, were suddenly being asked hard questions. Who gets credit? Who decides what's inspiration? Why do certain voices vanish after shaping entire eras? One unnamed executive allegedly admitted, "We reward the ones who can carry the narrative, not always the ones who built it." That confession leaked into a think piece, then another, then another. The family, meaning the broader creative community, was left divided again. Some artists publicly vowed to be more transparent with credits and collaboration. Others mocked the discourse, calling it soft and over-intellectualized. But the shift had already happened, because once fans start listening differently, the music doesn't land the same. Kendrick felt that shift too. At a festival performance, the crowd was electric, but when he performed one of his most emotionally raw songs, a strange thing happened. Instead of singing along loudly, the crowd went quiet, not disengaged, reflective. Observers said it felt like people were listening for something else now. Subtext, echoes, origins. After the show, Kendrick allegedly told someone backstage, "They hear everything now." That sentence matters, because hearing everything means legends don't get the benefit of mystery anymore. Soon after, Kendrick released a loosely framed statement, not on social media, but through a controlled interview. He spoke about collaboration, about learning, about how art is communal, but credit is complicated. He still didn't say Sampha's name. That omission spoke louder than any acknowledgement. Fans split into two camps, those who believed Kendrick was processing in his own way, and those who saw the silence as strategic. Damage control without accountability. Sampha didn't respond. Instead, he released a song. No rollout, no explanation, just dropped. The track was sparse. Piano, breath, space, and one lyric that froze listeners. "I'm not mad you took the flame, I'm hurt you never said where it came from." That line alone set the internet on fire. Reaction videos flooded YouTube. "This is it. That's the truth." He finally said it. But here's the wild part. The song never mentioned Kendrick, never hinted directly. It didn't have to, because the culture already filled in the blanks. The song charted modestly, but its impact was massive. Critics praised its restraint. Fans called it healing. Some even said it sounded like closure. But was it? According to alleged insiders, Sampha didn't see it that way. He saw it as release, not resolution. "There's no win here," he reportedly told a friend. "Just honesty." And honesty made people uncomfortable. In hip-hop forums, younger artists started sharing stories, times they'd given melodies away. written hooks that became someone else's identity. Watched their contributions get minimized because they weren't the face. This wasn't about Kendrick anymore. It was about a pattern. That's when the narrative fully slipped out of any one person's control. Documentary rumors surfaced. Not confirmed, but whispered. Playlists titled "Uncredited Architects of Hip Hop" went viral. Fans began asking why certain emotional sounds seemed to follow specific voices, even when those voices weren't present anymore. And Kendrick, he remained quiet. Those close to him say he wasn't angry, he was reflective, possibly even regretful. But reflection without action has limits. One collaborator allegedly said, "He knows the truth. He just doesn't know what saying it would cost." Because in hip-hop, confession can feel like weakness, and weakness gets punished. Sampha, on the other hand, seemed freer than ever. At another show, he smiled more, spoke more, let the audience in. "I don't need to be everywhere," he said. "I just need to be whole." Fans are shocked because that sounded like someone who had already moved on, even if the culture hadn't. The story isn't about reconciliation or revenge. It's about reckoning. The reckoning of an industry that celebrates vulnerability but struggles to honor the people who bring it. The reckoning of fans who realize their heroes are human and humans make choices. The reckoning of silence and what it protects and what it destroys. And as the dust settles, one final question hangs in the air, heavier than ever. If hip-hop is built on truth, why does it flinch when the truth makes its legends uncomfortable? Because in the end, this wasn't Sampha versus Kendrick. It was voice versus volume. And the culture still hasn't decided which one it values more. So now it's on you. After everything you just heard, everything you felt, everything that made you pause and rethink how this culture really works, what do you believe? Was this just another case of creative overlap blown out of proportion by the internet? Or did you witness something deeper, a truth hip-hop avoids because it makes its biggest names uncomfortable? Fans are still divided. Some say silence was dignity. Others say silence was damage. And right now, the comments are the only place where this conversation is actually being had without filters, without PR teams, without industry polish. This isn't about picking sides. It's about asking the questions nobody wants to answer. Because if vulnerability is the currency of hip-hop, who really owns it? If inspiration becomes identity, where does credit begin? And if the quieter voices keep shaping the loudest moments, why do they always seem to disappear from the story? Drop your thoughts below. Don't just type fire or cap. Tell us how this made you feel. Did this change the way you hear certain records? Did it make you rethink collaboration, credit, or even your favorite artists? We're reading everything. And if you made it this far, you already know this channel isn't here to spoon-feed narratives. We dig where others skim. We talk about the uncomfortable stuff. So make sure you like this video. It helps push these conversations where they actually belong. Hit subscribe if you want more real mix fake news, industry whispers, and the stories that never make the press run. Turn on notifications because this story, it's not done. There are always more layers, more receipts, more voices waiting to be heard. And remember, sometimes the most important truths in hip-hop aren't in the diss tracks, they're in the silence between the credits. You decide what matters. Silence between the credits. You decide what matters.